What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the Edison Club. Today I am bringing you my first place finishing Frog Monarch list from the Nintendo Switch tournament at Flashpoint Games last night in Jonesville, North Carolina. So before we get into this deck profile, guys, as always, please make sure that you like, share, comment, and subscribe. Really just motivates me to keep going, keep improving at the game, as well as content creation. So it means a lot to me when you guys hit that button. So without further ado, let's jump into this deck profile. Something you're going to notice right off the bat is this is probably the first time I think that I've ever really net decked a deck card for card. There are very minimal changes. I don't think that there is a single change in the 40 card main deck. There are a couple small changes in the side deck, but this is essentially I Am Nerd's list from the Edison 2K at Big Boy Gaming a couple months ago. And I'll give you a quick little backstory here. I was originally going to be playing Lightsworn at this event, but I really wanted to test out the new list that just topped the Deck Devastators tournament that was playing Glorious Illusion, Graganith, and stuff like that. I didn't get the cards in time, and I felt as if I already knew my other build of Lightsworn well enough where I just didn't have to test it anymore. So I thought, you know what, we'll have some fun. We'll play Frogs, have some fun games, and we ended up taking it home. So pretty cool that ended up happening that way, and had a lot of interesting games, a lot of fun games. The deck is very different from Lightsworn. I think that goes without saying, but it did feel a little bit different to not take the Lightsworn to a tournament, but now I'm just getting into old man rambling. So we're going to jump into this deck profile now, guys, and we'll stop wasting your time. So if you want the more in-depth profile of this, head on over to I Am Nerd's YouTube channel. I'll try to find the original video he posted about the deck and post it in the description. His reasonings for things and his knowledge of the game is way deeper than mine, but this was my first time playing Frogs at a tournament, so I think that is a pretty good accomplishment. So without further ado, so starting things off, we have one Dark Dust Spirit. I know a lot of people are against this card. I've actually considered playing two of this guy after last night, just coming out, board wiping, because sometimes Frogs have an issue where if your opponent does have a big board, it's hard to get over it without this guy. So maybe I would side deck another one. I'm not 100% sure, but every time I drew this guy, he was very, very good. Especially going back to hand during the end phase, so your opponent can't like brain control your guy and tribute for something. It's pretty good. I also main decked the one Vanity's Fiend. Comes up a lot more in game one than it honestly should. I think a lot of people don't really expect this card to be in your main deck. You do side deck the other two copies for decks that predominantly special summon, but one in the main deck was pretty decent, honestly. He's a lot better post side because he's a tribute summon that doesn't get hit by pulling the rug. We have our mid-range Monarch, Thestalos. When our opponent's trying to not commit so much of the board, we can drop this guy out, take a card out of their hand, hit them for some damage. Sometimes you do have to be careful with this card. I've noticed I've ran into a couple odd situations where they weren't committing to the board, so I dropped Thestalos, hit a card out of their hand, and then they actually dropped Gores on the burn damage from Thestalos. So sometimes you have to be a little bit careful because this guy can play into Gores in two ways, so the burn damage as well as attacking directly. But normally that doesn't happen. Normally you're fine, but you know, just be aware that that is a thing that could happen. Then we have the three crazy Monarchs. We have three Ryza alongside three Caius. I'm a big fan of the original gold rares here. I really do like these a lot, honestly. Not much to say about these guys. They're honestly insane. Caius obviously is better than Ryza most of the time. Sometimes there are decks you play against where you really don't want Ryza. Like I don't want a Ryza back Judgment Dragon and stuff like that. But yeah, there's not a lot to say about those guys. They are crack. We have two Junk Synchron to enable our extra deck a little bit. Lets us get into some synchros. Also combos really well with Swap Frog. Sometimes you can just junk back a Swap Frog. Swap Frog returns a monster you control to hand for cost, so it can still bounce himself or bounce any other card you control, including Junk Synchron, back to hand, even though junk negates the effect. So you just don't get the extra normal summon from the Swap Frog, which normally you don't really do that anyway. Then we have the Frogs. There's not a lot to really add here. We have three Substitute Uni, two Treeborn, three Swap, and two Dupe Frog. This is pretty much standard. I don't think you really expand on this much in Frog Monarch. I think some of like your Diva Frogs and stuff, they play like Flip Flop Frog and those guys. But for the most part, this is pretty standard. Not a lot to really say there. They're pretty broken, heart and soul of the deck. Then for defense, we have three Battle Fader, 3 Gores. I actually had an insane game against my friend Michael Gammons last night where I actually OTK'd with Frog Monarchs. And it was just, everything just went exactly how it needed to. Basically, I went first. I think I substituted into swap, sent a Treeborn. He attacked me with a Shura. I dropped a Gores on it. He passed. I floated back my Treeborn. Tribute summon, hit a card in his back row. He did have one set, so obviously it wasn't Icarus attack. So that leaves me with Gores token, Ryza. So I go Gores token, attack into Shura. He collutes. Token doesn't go to grave, so no trigger of Shura. I drop Tragodia on the burn, on the damage from the battle. Then I Econ, tribute the Tragodia, take the 3200 Shura, and then it's 24, 27, and 32. So that will probably never happen again. It actually took me like 30 seconds to even realize that was a line that could happen. Normally you're not going to get OTK'd by frogs, but when you have like both of these with Econ, it can definitely happen. That rounds off all the monsters. Going into spells, not a lot of explanation needed here. We have Brain, Space, Storm, and 1-for-1. These are just kind of the most broken one-ups that you can play. Scapegoat combos really well with Substitute, gives you blockers and stuff like that. Sometimes it can help you win games through deck devi, just so you have defense until you can get a tribute summon if like their deck devi hits like Treeborn Frogs and stuff like that. So Scapegoat was fine. Then we have what I consider to be like the real like win cons of the deck, which are 3 Econ and 3 Soul Exchange. Just using your opponent's cards to play your deck is really, really strong. Getting them out of the way, attacking for game with their own monster. Sometimes even just switching something to defense position can be good. And Soul Exchange or Substitute goes without saying. And the last card, you probably guessed, is just Treacherous Trap Hole. Destroy 2 monsters. So that rounds off the main deck. I'll go through the extra deck really quick because it's pretty not important. We have 1 Goyo, 1 Black Rose, 1 Brio. Frazier side decked Super Poly, which if I had had absolute zeros for this event, I would have done the same thing. But he was playing, I think he was playing Gaia and AZ, or maybe he was just playing 2 AZ. But since I wasn't doing that, I played Red Dragon Archfiend, Xavier Bellum. It really doesn't matter. Like, these 2 become your heroes if you play Super Poly. I just put them in there. Just might as well play 15. The most important ratio in the extra deck is to play 2 Catastrophe for your 2 Junk Synchrons, because sometimes the second one does come up. Then we have the Android. Junk Warrior never came up for me. I'm sure it definitely can sometimes. Armory Arm, Flamvel Urquaza, Stardust Dragon, Fortress Dragon, Colossal Fighter, and Thought Ruler. So that rounds off the extra deck, the all-important extra deck. Going to the side, we have 3 Dust Tornado and 1 Torrential. This was a little bit different from what Frazier played. I pretty much decided to do this because no one expects Torrential and Frogs. And when you take out your Treacherous to put these guys in, it still gives you a defensive trap to play. So it was fine. Then we have 1 Burial from a Different Dimension. Normally wouldn't side this card, but it was a more... I felt like there were going to be a lot of rogue players there, which there really actually weren't. So I figured more people would be on Soul Release, but I drew this card once and I didn't get Soul Released, and it just sat in my hand. We have 2 Book. Chose not to play 3. Probably should have played 3. This was the slot for the 3rd book. I really wish it had just been the 3rd book, honestly. 2 DD Crows for graveyard stuff. 2 Vanity's Fiend. 2 Cyber Dragon, and 2 Sirocco. Yeah, these guys kind of help you not just get blown out by deck devi. In my final match against Diva Hero, I actually put these in and just took out like my battle faders, stuff like that, just so I have normal summons that don't get blown out by deck devi. Obviously, this card is really good against Blackwing, but it's not the worst card to put in when you just want to be able to play through deck devi. It's a 2000 normal summon. It attacks over Alias. And it still works with stuff like Soul Exchange. So if you need to clear a threat, you can Soul Exchange and summon Sirocco. So, I mean, I thought that these were fine. These are basically the same card. This one costs a normal, this one doesn't. So this one's probably a little bit better. But no real complaints there. I'm not sure if that's the real theory of Sirocco or not. But I never drew him. I did put him in. Every time I tried to play around deck devi, I still opened up like all frogs. So the theory didn't exactly get executed that well, but you know, it's there. I think that it's a solid reasoning. Okay, guys, well, that's the first place Frog Monarch list from the Switch tournament at Flashpoint Games. last Friday, or yesterday. This video will be going up today on Saturday. And I met with a lot of dilemmas going into Nationals weekend next weekend. Do I play my original Lightsworn list, which I've showcased on the channel in a couple episodes of the Ultimate Lightsworn Guide? Do I play ×2's list that topped the deck Devastators? Or do I just, oh gosh, spaghetti. Do I just rock the Frog deck? Who knows? Who knows? I guess we'll make a decision between now and then. And yeah, so guys, this is Mike from the Edison Club signing out until the next one. And I will see you guys next weekend in Raleigh, North Carolina.